Boy, Christmas brought so much joy. Couldn't wait for the presents and laughter. I couldn't sleep late at night, looking for Santa with lights. Those are the memories I still remember. Then I became a man, lost sight of who I am, but right in front of me was the answer. 'Cause on Christmas I feel joy, and I turn back to a boy. The answer is to stay young forever. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song, this is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song, this is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song, this is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song.
Ho, ho, ho. Hello, Star Wars fans. You know, there's just 279 days until Christmas 2023. And oh my goodness, there's a lot to talk about today. Real quick off the top is my main computer is still in Houston, Texas, being worked on. I don't have it. So we're on the laptop again today. And we'll be doing the watch party tomorrow morning, as we always do. But there may be limitations. Look forward to watching the Bad Batch and the next episode of the Mandalorian with you all tomorrow. But today we've got tons of news to talk about, and I've got my friend Jason Ward, Star Wars Meg, and Bespin Bulletin. Look, we've got the whole crew together today. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Meg. Anytime. And Bespin.
Take him, Bespin. Come on.
Oh, I think Jason's really loud.
Yeah,
sorry. Wow.
That was pretty loud.
Am I too loud still? I just yelled in the mic, so that might be why.
Yeah, I'm deaf now. Thank you very much.
Well, you're awake.
We should have had Jason say, "Now you do what they told you," over and over again.
Do what they told you.
Now I know how Bix felt.
You're in my net, Bix. You're a fish or you're a thief. I like that quote.
I saw that on your video today.
Yes.
It's a great quote.
Because the Kiner brothers teased the Bad Batch episode with that stock footage of the guy pulling out like a bass, like from fishing, and then he put Wrecker's helmet on the guy's face. So I don't know what that means.
But you did pick out a key detail that I do want to touch base on. Hey, Sketchcraft, look who's in the chat with a super chat. Rob, thank you so much for the super chat, Rob. Oh no! Santa's trapped in a prequel blue screen stage. I know. I love Rob's impression of me. It's the best. It's great.
Rob is one of my favorite people in the online Star Wars space. He's a very, very funny guy, but also he's got like the perfect amount of stories that bring you nostalgia, but also a touch of modernity. I sound like a Time Out review, but
he does. He sometimes he takes the worst take on what I'm actually saying, which makes it even more fun, right? So I say something benign, and he'll take it as like super offensive, and then run with it and make it into a thing, and it's actually brilliant, and it's comedic gold. I love it. He's great. So hey, there's this story. Let's get straight to this, and then I know there may be some time restrictions for you guys, so we can be conscientious of that. But Damon,
David.
Damone. I believe his name is Damone.
Damone
Lindelof.
Damon and Justin, they left, and the gist of the story, and we don't have to read the entire thing, and then we can let you guys give some detail to it. Let me make this a little bit bigger here so it's easier to read. The gist of the story is they turned in their They were the screenwriters. They're not the producers. They were screenwriters for the show, and they turned in their script in what was it, like February? I want to think. When did they?
Yes, mid-February.
Yeah, mid-February. They turned in their script, and then basically said, "We're out." That's it. Now, there's a lot more to the story than that, because there was this quote that came back that we talked about before, and a lot of folks were talking about before. It says, for reasons I can't go into this Sunday morning on this day, the degree of difficulty is extremely, extremely, extremely high. If it can't be great, it shouldn't exist. That's all I'll say, because I have the same association with it as you do, which is it's the first movie I saw on my dad's lap, 4 years old, May of 77. I think it's possible sometimes when you hold something in such high reverence and esteem, you start to get in the kitchen, you just go, maybe I shouldn't be cooking. Maybe I should just be eating. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, when you take out all of the fat from that, he says the degree of difficulty is extremely, extremely high. If it can't be great, it shouldn't exist. I think it's possible that sometimes when you hold something in such high reverence and esteem, you start to get in the kitchen and just go, maybe I shouldn't be cooking. Maybe I should just be eating. That's what he said.
But here's the problem, Jason. Do you not think there's a deep reason he must have walked away? Because if they're going ahead with his script and Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is still directing, what would his, like in very simple terms, what would his motive for walking away at this stage be?
Imposter syndrome, or he didn't hit his marks. Maybe they critiqued his script and he agreed. I mean, this doesn't sound like he's blaming them, or he's going, Lucasfilm screwed me over, or he's saying, I'm not the guy. That's what the quote is saying. That's his only statement he made, is him saying, I'm not the guy. We could take it, down these, like, all these paths about how Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy, blah, blah, blah. But I'm looking at evidence-based, like, analysis here. He's literally just saying, I'm not the guy. So maybe they dug him to his script. Maybe they had a story group meeting, so to speak, and maybe everybody kind of evaluated the script, and maybe he walked away going, you're right. This doesn't hit the marks for a first draft for what we intend to do. And then according to the report by Jeff Snyder, they already have a new writer. So the project didn't die. People keep going, this keeps happening. Okay, I was saying, Rogue One, you got Witta. You end up with 4 writers in Rogue One. Like, I'm going to name them all, but you end up with 4 writers on Rogue One. And you guys love that movie.
Same thing with Andor. The original thing wasn't written by Gilroy. It was it the guy who did Moana or something? Something weird, right?
Yeah, it was a Disney. It was a guy inside of Disney who pitched and started. Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote the Bible on it. That's what the quote was, right?
Yeah, and I think he got a writer's credit for some of the episodes for that reason. And so, just looking at it from an evidence-based, kind of angle with what Snyder said and with what Lindelof said to Slash Film itself, I'm disappointed. I personally am disappointed. There's people. I saw Star Wars only going, I want to see how the shield spin this one, and I was like, well, you're actually kind of maybe spinning what actually has happened when we follow exactly just the evidence. You know what I mean? There's not really like anything more going on here that we could say without making huge assumptions. And then I don't really give a crap about Kathleen Kennedy. I really don't care if she stays or if she goes, but I can't for the life of me make a connection to Kathleen Kennedy being a problem with this, other than the fact that she hired Damon Lindelof, one of Hollywood's most prolific and prominent writers. We're going to go, that's where she messed up? I can't make the connection to that either.
I want to, I thought about this a lot too. Okay, how am I going to respond to this? And do you just jump onto the bandwagon it's a big dumpster fire, everything's on fire, everybody needs to go, fire everybody. Star Wars is in the ICU on life support, everybody bail, or do you go a full on shill and say, hey, there's nothing wrong, everything's great, you guys are overreacting, or is the truth somewhere in between? And to me, it feels like it's somewhere in between. That
I agree with you, Santa.
Yeah, to me, it feels like this keeps happening. So obviously, there's something that isn't like finely tuned, right?
Maybe it's the support.
Yeah,
maybe Lucasfilm isn't fostering and supporting their creatives when they don't hit the mark. Maybe,
but what I'm also seeing is things are still do seem to be on a better trajectory. And let me put it, let's give some examples. And I'll start with Solo, right? Solo, they got all the way through filming basically and realized this is a hot mess. It needs fixed. And so they bring in Ron Howard.
That's kind of not the story though.
But there was a bunch of reshooting that happened, and Ron Howard had to do some tricks to reuse footage.
Right.
And the budget of that went way high because of it. And to me, it feels like this happened earlier. We didn't get to the point where we're like, okay, this doesn't seem right, we need to fix it. But we've already got this film in the bag. We need to do something. At least we're starting up with the script was presented that like, ooh, there's some structural issues here. And we don't know yet what those are. Is it that, and I think you touched on this, Jason, they read through it. They said, oh, we see some problems here. It's going to need some work. And Lindelof realized, okay, I'm not the guy. And so he steps away. And now they've got something to start with? Or is this like, toss the whole thing in the can and start over? I don't know.
I think it's that they continue off of the bones of Lindelof's work, and going back to the quote, him leaving days after they read the script, it could just be creative differences. He's given them the structure of it, the bare bones of it. They're not happy with his vision. He's not happy with theirs. There's no bad blood between either of them, between the studio and the creatives, and they part ways. They're now bringing somebody else in to get this in production by February, I believe, is the time they set out in Jeff Snyder's article. So I don't think it's a bad thing. The one thing I would be worried about from the studio side of things is bringing in creators. You might get a bad reputation for not delivering projects to the screen, seeing creatives' visions through. If you go back to Taika Waititi, before he actually signed with Lucasfilm to do a movie, he did that tweet, which was, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something along the lines of, why would I make a Star Wars movie? Like, I want to make a movie that makes it onto the big screen. Like, that could now be, a movie that actually comes out. And we could be entering that, area. If you look at, like, something that's happening over at Warner Brothers, when they started pulling content from their streaming service and, in order not to pay certain creators on those projects, Seth Rogen being one of them. Like, that's never good. Like Legendary parted ways with them over like the way that company was being handled. Same thing with Christopher Nolan. Disney and Lucasfilm, that's my only concern with them, is if really talented people such as Damon Lindelof can't get their vision made, there's always a creative difference with various filmmakers. That's my only concern. I haven't got a concern about the movie necessarily. I think Lindelof is a great writer. He's probably given him something great to work from. And I hope they bring in a good writer to replace him. They suppose already have one. Who it is, nobody knows at this time. But I don't think it's anything to be concerned about in terms of the film. But bringing in talent in the future, that might be a concern. And that's the only area I can ever say, maybe that's where you look at Kennedy. And again, I like Kathleen Kennedy. She's made billions of dollars for that company. you know, whether the sequels are divisive or not, they still were very successful. She's had a great run on Star Wars TV. Mandalorian's a flagship of Disney Plus. Give it a great start. But if there's constantly clashes with talent and Craig's walking off of projects, then that might not be alluring to a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And like the big thing is that she's not a creative producer. She's literally a producer who brings the creatives to do things to pitch projects, and then they evaluate and move on from there. And like I've always been afraid of them actually getting a creative producer, because that's when everything starts to have like a flavor to it all the time. We don't get like necessarily get Andor and Skeleton Crew, you know, and like. Mm-hmm. But do you guys think it's time that they go and they bring in? Is it time to have a creative producer now? Is it time for that, Eric? Because that might, if you had a creative producer, they'd be like, we're doing this movie and it's called Boba Fett and the Magic Dragon. And then you're going to write Boba Fett and the Magic Dragon for that creative producer, because that's what that creative producer wants to see.
Well, I think maybe that a lot of people would love to see that, but let's address a couple of questions from the chat, and then we'll get right back to that. Is it a bit late to come to the conclusion, right? How long have they been working on it? We still have 2.5 years to screen time, right? Mm-hmm. A little over 2.5 years. I don't think it's late.
Well, here's the thing that nobody's talking about, Santa. We got a writer's strike coming in about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I thought it was interesting that he said that production was going to begin in February. Is that what he said? Because that's way earlier than what I had heard a while ago. It's a while ago.
No. So February next year.
Well, okay. That's even later than what I had heard. I heard that they were going to be going like this summer. So how long is that going to be? It's going to be a volume-based movie?
Well, no, but Snyder did say to me like a few weeks back on the hot mic that it was aiming to film by the summer. So clearly there's been a delay in the production as well. Then probably to make up for the change of writers.
Guys, sorry, I do have to go, but thank you for having me on here.
Thanks, Meg.
Bye, Meg.
Have a good stream, guys. Thank you.
Bye,
Talk to
Meg.
you in a bit.
Talk later, my friend. Take care. So the couple things off that. He also, Jeff Snyder also said we had the leads, whatever, already cast. I don't know if that's the right word. Selected.
Yeah, is it cast or casted? Casted sounds wrong. I don't know.
I would say cast.
We've cast.
Cast.
Yes, cast.
Cast, right?
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Going to cast. You did cast. Yeah, it's the same. But if they get rid of the cast, is that getting castrated?
No? Okay.
But is it likely? Like a lot of things can happen between now and then, right? Like, what's the chances we stick with enough of that we hold on to the same actor or actors, whatever, for the story, or the story might shift so far that they're not even part of the picture anymore. Let's assume for the moment we stay on the December 2025 timeframe, and we expect that to happen. So you're not throwing the actors off, right? They've already got it booked. They already know that this is what the project is, so on and so forth.
No, I would say like the actors, if we go by Jeff Snyder being correct in the initial thing of this was supposed to be filmed by the summer, and I think Jason had a similar report before that this was supposed to film by the summer, those actors would have booked the summer. They would have booked that time frame, scheduled that out. This is now delaying it into February, at least 7 months, say.
Yeah.
So their time frames are completely off now. Those actors may not be available for February. They may have other commitments. And because Jeff Snyder, the way he said it right originally was one of the talent, the male lead, came attached to the project with Lindelof, correct?
Right.
So that actor may feel a sense of loyalty to Lindelof. He wanted to do the Lindelof's vision, which this will no longer be. So he may want off the project. So we got to take that into consideration. But also, like I said, if there's a big change in production, maybe they will clear their old schedule out for it, but maybe they can't. Maybe they won't. Maybe the change in leadership there on this script, on this production, makes them lose confidence. We don't know. But again, it's so far away. This not a thing to worry about necessarily with a cast.
Well, I think Jason's point on the writer's strike is the next thing to kind of keep your pulse on, because if that's a short-lived strike, they resolve things in a matter of a few weeks, not a few months. Let's say it goes 6, 7, even maybe as much as 11 or 12, 13 weeks. That's still not going to be like the end of the world. If it goes into 6, 9, 11 months.
Yeah, and like a 1 year long strike would be like the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
That's like we've never done that really. It would be like the worst case scenario. But the thing about it is the what makes this one seem worse than any of the other ones that we've ever had before is whatever concessions are given to these writers, they will have to give to the directors and maybe ultimately even to SAG, which is the Screen Actors Guild. So Directors Guild of America, the Screen Actors Guild of America. So the issues at play here have echoing ramifications across the whole industry that cut into the bottom line of the studios immensely. So every single little crumb that is given will likely be given times 3. Most of them. It's a big fight. This isn't like oh yeah, they want more potty breaks. It's not baby stuff on this one. This is like how people are paid across streaming platforms, how residuals work. When they were originally, all these fights had to do with like standard TV when you had 5 channels, and now we have a whole different system set up that is robbing creatives, and the studios are reaping all of the rewards, acting like, oh my God, the poor us, and it's not poor them. And so the creatives have every single reason to dig their heels in, and I think they're going to. And unless the studios really go, you know what, we got to be fair. But does anybody believe that will happen? I don't, for the life of me, believe that will happen. I have no faith in that part of humanity, especially LA douchebags at all, Hollywood douchebags at all. We'll soon
find out. We'll soon find out. There's supposed to be initial talks, right, this month, at the end of this month, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
if they don't go well, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it has to be decided by May 1st. May 1st is when it should be like.
That's when the contract begin. Right?
That's when the contract's up, and that's when the striking would logically begin. Now, if the talks go really bad, there's always a chance they start striking even before. But I don't think they're allowed to some extent, but it's only like weeks. So at that point, I'd say would be May 1st. It's how this stuff actually works. Like, I've talked to writers. I went into Reddit, to like this subreddits, and like have been communicating with writers and that, are really knowledgeable of the law and stuff. It's complicated, like how that stuff works. Sometimes they're like, I'll get back to you. And these are people that have been writing for 25 years in Hollywood, So it's really, 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 it's really difficult. And maybe that's why that delay is until February. But the thing about Star Wars movies can be, like, for instance, that some components are modular, If they were making a New Hope, we know Act 1 is like location shooting. We're going out to like Tunisia. We're going to have to go to Tunisia on that. Act 2, we're going to be in the Death Star quite a bit. So it's going to be Pinewood stages. We're going to have to get a bunch of stuff up ready for Pinewood. We'll do a bunch of filming. Mm-hmm. But like once we get to like Act 3, we're really going to get into like a lot of special effects. It's going to be like an X-Wing attack on a space station. And therefore, there's a lot of work that could be done on that third act to start like. So I think that the schedule of this production is probably just going to be rearranged now. So what it sounds like to me, if based off of what they're saying, and if they're going to make that 2025 release date, which is late 2025 too, right? It's like a December.
Yeah.
And so we're almost, so we're really talking like a 2026 film when you get down to it.
So you said something some time ago, and it just bears repeating here. The studios have been preparing for this. They've been budgeting for it. They've been bracing themselves for it. They've been putting some backstops in to try to help manage this.
Netflix is buying up Korean dramas left and right now.
And Disney is spreading out all their like Marvel content across the space of 2 years, which has already been filmed.
And you agree with me, right, Bespin, that they probably did Skeleton Crew when they did, against to their own detriment, to have an extra one in the bag for the strike? Is that was kind of the consensus?
Yeah, but again, when we look at this year, like apparently we're only going to get 2 Marvel shows and getting two Star Wars shows now, like for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
If they did delay Scout Crew to next year, then they would have very little content this year, like of their flagship franchises and properties.
Right.
So realistically, it has to come out this year, unless they pushed a Marvel one up. But the post-production process on a lot of Marvel projects recently has been questionable. So,
but without that, they wouldn't have really needed Skeleton Crew this year if Marvel had delivered
correct.
on the original initial plan. So
Yeah, because
yes.
Secret Invasion's been delayed a couple of times now. It was originally supposedly January, then it was May, now it's apparently June. Just getting knocked back each time. Loki's supposed to be this year, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, then the rest, even though they filmed 2 shows and wrapped them up last year, they're coming out next year now. You know, again, it's good for Disney Plus and trying to, maintain the subscribers. And with this writer strike incoming, you've got enough content to satisfy fans and subscribers. But, yeah, again, if it was an ideal world, these shows would be coming out a bit faster.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm just trying to, again, put some context around it. Because if all you do is laser focus on Star Wars, which we tend to do, right, and you just look at that, you're like, this thing is on fire, right? Like it's burning to the ground, and Dave and John are the only thing that's standing. That can be the perspective that you get. But I don't know that it's that bad. Like when you look at the state of the writer's strike that's going to go across all the studios. You look at the state of the streaming services across all the providers. Disney and Lucasfilm and Star Wars, it doesn't stand alone in a place where they are doing markedly worse than anybody else, or in many cases, they're doing much better than others. Look at Warner Brothers. Look what's going on over at HBO and DC, right? Like that is restructuring from like just take everything off the table and start over. We're not there. Maybe with this movie, the Lindelof movie, we might be close to that, right? Like I don't know how much of that gets retained, or if all of it's just jettisoned. And I can't help but think there's 2 things. My brain is like splitting in multiple things at the same time. But there's been a question in the chat a few times about George Lucas and him being aware. And I can't help but think about like, okay, they had this initial sequel treatment from Lucas. They started working with it. They started tweaking it. They started revising it. They started working with it. And along the way, they said, this ain't working, boys. Off it went. And it kind of started over. Some pieces of it kind of got sprinkled in here and there, more of an homage to anything than anything else. Might that be the case with Lindelof's? Where we start with this, we start working with it. At the end of the day, it doesn't resemble anything.
I still think Rogue One is the best way to look at what this is probably going to be.
Okay.
I mean, Rogue One, there's a premise thrown out, the pitch by John Knoll, who didn't write it. And we're going to attack, how do we get the Death Star plans? What was the story about how the rebels stole it? And then, okay, yeah, that's great. That's a good idea. And then we commit, then you hire your writers. See, we still don't know if it's a Lindelof story, because this very well may end up being, at Celebration. Jedi, I just asked, does Jason think we will get any movie news at Celebration? I do. I think they're going to announce this movie at Celebration still.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think it's the story idea is what we're going to get announced, and I think but the question was it Lindelof's idea? Was it Lindelof's story idea originally? Was it his original pitch that kicked off this concept, or is it another kind of thing where somebody had an idea like John Knoll? How do we attack the Death Star? How do we steal the plans? How did that happen? And then they hire Lindelof to write it, and then it doesn't connect. You get another writer in to revise until they have a movie.
Yeah, but even if it's that way, or even if it was Lindelof's idea, they're still working off of the bare bones of the Lindelof movie. Like they still say this film, yeah, it'd be story by who gets a producer's credit or whatever. They are still going ahead with the movie he was initially on.
Yeah.
The director is still attached. I mean, Obey Chenoy, she's still doing it. They've got a new writer to come in and continue it. So in the article by Jeff Snyder, it mentions that Lucasfilm's plan was to announce the title of the movie along with a brief synopsis at Celebration.
Yeah.
He still thinks that's the plan, I believe, but he doesn't expect cast to be announced. So maybe the casting has changed, because he was obviously reporting that they already have the 2 leads. You know,
That'd be great.
That could have changed now. But
that could be really great.
Yeah.
This writer's strike has me concerned. And what's going to happen? So this is the other thing I was thinking about this morning and kind of chewing on. I tend to get focused on my own thoughts, like how I feel about it. And when somebody else thinks differently than me and they feel differently from me, I tend to be like, well, they're just wrong. They're dumb. But the case is their feelings and thoughts are just as valid as mine. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm the idiot in the room. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But at the end of the day, when you look at the fandom as a whole, there is a perception that Disney can't execute on plans, or that Lucasfilm, that Star Wars, right? Lucasfilm, Star Wars specifically, and perhaps even Lucasfilm as a whole, when you look at Willow and what happened there, they can't carry through on their promises. Where they start, they end up getting rid of directors, writers. It's a mess. Everything that they've announced gets canceled. There's a perception that they can't. Whether the perception is true or not, and how it depends on the audience. When you add more fuel to the fire, when the perception is what it is, it's natural for things to run the way that we're seeing it run, right? So like Lindelof says, okay, I gave them what I had. It needed a lot of work. I don't have the time, and I'm not the right person to carry it to the next stage. So I turned it over to them. I'm out, and they've got the right people on it. You could say, okay, that's fine. But when the perception of other, like you add Patty Jenkins and the long list of people now starting to line up who have not been able to carry through the project, it adds to that perception. It's just another L, right? It's another loss. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's Rogue One. And Rogue One from the fandom is perceived very highly. And maybe this is a good sign. Maybe this is all the right things. Everything people's complained about with the sequels not being planned out and feeling disjointed and so on, that it was rushed to production, especially when you get to Rise of Skywalker. They didn't have enough time to let it fully develop. I love Rise of Skywalker. There's a lot of people who love Rise of Skywalker, but there's a perception out there, and you have to accept that perception exists. So when this happens, it's going to feed into that. And of course, you're going to get all the negativity around that. You should just assume that. And so I think it's very important at Celebration that Lucasfilm be able to step on the stage and sell us that's not on fire. They need to, there's people ready to hear it. They need to do a good job of selling it and it feeling authentic and not just like.
Well, like today, I hope I didn't come off mean, Ben, but Jason said Jason got me earlier today, though. They technically didn't announce him officially. And like, that's been the whole thing, is people are like, they need to get out ahead of this. They should have got out ahead of it. But they never even, how do you get out ahead of something that you've never even released to the public?
Yeah, but
officially,
you and I were both saying that, those stories that were coming through the trades in the summer and the autumn, that they clearly planted stories because of the way things are being worded. They're trying to get both sets of fans on board. It's tied to the sequel it's after the sequel trilogy, but it won't be connected necessarily. It might have sequel trilogy characters, it might not.
Opportunities.
Yeah. Dave Filoni, he might be writing or he might not be writing. Like there's
And let me remember I had the theory that I'm like, I don't think there's a writer's room on this movie. I think that's just the story group evaluating what they're doing. Do you
I
think
it's a story
do you
group
think with
with
this
consultants.
that makes it more? Yeah, the story group is essentially a group of consultants, and
No,
for
the ones that Lindelof brought in himself, right?
Okay.
Like he brought in
Yeah.
a group.
So like I think that confirms that that there wasn't a writer's room on this one. Like when I say a writer's room, I mean like where it's being written by a committee. You know, it doesn't sound like that's actually necessarily what was happening there.
You've made reference to this akin to Rogue One. It could be a Rogue One situation, right? It also could be a Rise of Skywalker situation, where this they know what they kind of want this film to be. They're working off of The Last Jedi and it was sort of calling the script, right? Because he did get a credit.
Yeah.
JJ had a race against time to write that movie because that movie had to be out by December 2019. He had a race against time. This new writer who's stepping in to take on from Lindelof and Justin Britt-Gibson, they're also in a race against time. Not just because it's only 11 months away when this needs to enter production, this needs to begin filming, but the writer's strike looming. If that thing goes on a bit longer than we'd like it to, then there's even less time for that writer to put pen to paper and come up with something, really good, really exciting to us as fans and a top quality project. I'm not saying it's going to go that way. I'm not saying it's going to go Rogue One way. I'm just sitting on the fence and saying it could go either way.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't because we're not there. We don't know what the actual notes back were. We don't know. Is it all crap dialogue? Was it the structure of the story? Was it completely bland? Like there's all of these things that we don't like. For all we know, this new writer who comes aboard right now may actually be able to get it into being a shooting script. Not that it would be the best script, but a shooting worthy script like before the writer's strike. It's possible because we just don't really know. And it's been like Lindelof and his partner were on it for like around a year.
Over a year.
Yeah. So like we don't really even know, was that their second draft or was that the first draft? There's all kinds of there's all kinds of components here that we don't have the actual firm answers to that to actually truly be like, this is garbage. We're screwed. We don't really know.
No. And going back to what do you call it? Like the trade reports last year, they kept saying that this is the one with the most momentum. This is the one that Lucasfilm will feel confident with. And, along with Lindelof, this is the one they're trying to get the story right for, avoiding pitfalls of the sequel trilogy. And now we get to a point where, like, Lindelof and Justin Britt-Gibson, they are gone. They might still get story credits, producer credits, or whatnot, but they have gone now. New writer's been brought in. We don't know who that is. I'd assume that's going to get out over the coming days, maybe through the trades, perhaps, but... we're in a weird position. And again, Lucasfilm didn't announce this project, but they feed things through the trades, like all studios do, not just Lucasfilm.
Let me touch base on Dominic's comment here about they have plenty of time to properly plan it since 2019. Yes and no, Dominic. You're right. I mean, it's been 5 years, so there should have been time to plan it. The thing is, they put a pause on planning movies for a while. They focused completely on Disney Plus content, and they were given the direction, hey, we want to put all of our eggs in the Disney Plus basket right now. Go.
I would disagree with that theory. Like, Disney hired Benioff and Weiss to write a series of movies in 2018, I think. To be the next, series of films that come out after The Rise of Skywalker. They then hired Kevin Feige in 2019. They hired Ryan in 2017 to do a trilogy. They've hired Taika in 2020, so 3 years ago. Patty in 2020. And so they didn't pause development on movies. They wanted to make movies. They wanted the next Star Wars movie to arrive in cinemas in December 2023, December of this year. They didn't really put a pause on it. They've always been developing movies. It's just that Disney Plus and the movie and the TV shows that are on there, the productions have gone far smoother. And, that could be in part to Jon Favreau, how he's put together the stuff on the LA side of things. But, so I don't think they haven't tried. They've had different visions. Like when you go back to the Taika movie, along with Patty and Feige, they were supposed to be standalone movies. They weren't supposed to tell a larger story. Whereas when we get to Lindelof, it seems as if their ideas changed, and it was a standalone movie that could evolve into a series of movies if the initial film from Lindelof is successful. I think the Lucasfilm's vision has changed multiple times throughout the course of the hiring, say, Benioff and Weiss in 2018 to Lindelof last year, you know?
And that's just how writing goes to some extent. Writing is and to use Lindelof's like analogy, have you ever planned to cook a dinner you've cooked before, and then it doesn't go right? It should have, but it doesn't. Nobody ever knows if it's going to go right when you go to write something. We remember back when you were in school or college or whatever, you'd sit down and you write a paper and you're like, wow, this is a really good paper. You sit down with the same confidence as the first time and you're like, this is a bad paper. Like with writing, it's never a given that it's going to be good or that's going to work out, or that the ideas that are like actually like fueling the passion of the project even make it into the film sometimes. But like that happens all the time. So it's not, and this is Star Wars, which is the hardest thing to do in Hollywood, easily.
Yeah, so two points on that. One, and I saw Dominic say in the chat, we grew up with Star Wars in the theater. It needs to return. Keep in mind, we have big gaps between movies. Big, like you got a trilogy, and then a decade or
20
so.
years, like 20, right? 20 years, almost 16 years.
Exactly. So it's been 5, right? We're on pace. We're on pace. I get it. We're all frustrated. We want more. Sure, Marvel got out big blockbusters once a year. Why can't Star Wars? Star Wars set out to do big blockbusters once a year, but that's not happening. And then they went to every other year, not happening. And then they made all these announcements, didn't happen. So, yeah, but if you just step back and you say, George Lucas did 3 movies, and he made them up as he went. Like he had a concept of what the movie is, and he changed it along the way. Fine. He did a great job. 16 years. He makes 3 more movies, makes changes along the way. 10 years, he sells it to Disney. Disney gives us another trilogy. People can, wherever you lie on that. So it's been 5 years. They do need to get another movie in theaters. They need it to be a successful movie. They need it to be a blockbuster. But I'm with you. Then the other thing I saw. A quick TLDR. What happened? Lindelof submitted his script. They said it needs work, and he says, "Okay, get somebody else." There you go. That's the short of it.
Yeah, like I said, it could just be creative differences. That they did think Lindelof was the man for the job. He hands in the script. There's creative differences, I assume, and they can part ways on good terms. It doesn't need to be that, it was negative. Lindelof could have seen that. Yeah, I'm not the guy for this job. Then, if you want it to be this way, and they could acknowledge that he isn't the guy for that job, and this is whoever they brought in to replace him could be. Again, as a Star Wars fan, it's very frustrating that this has happened once again, that another creative has departed a project that fans are looking forward to. But, there's things behind the scenes we don't know. All we know is he's no longer there. The actual film he was working on is still being made, but with a different writer. The director is still on board.
That's a good point, Bespin. Yeah, the movie is still on. That's the other thing that needs to be kind of reiterated, because it's not been canceled. The movie isn't dropped. The director is still attached. It still is has producers. All of that is still happening. The writers have left, and we have a writer's strike coming up in a hot minute, right? And so there's the concern. We have a script. The writers have left. Now we have a writer's strike coming up that's going to stop everything for a bit. There are competent writers who can pick up this script and move it forward. And as Jason and Bespin both have kind of said, think of it like Rogue One. Rogue One had a similar situation. We had a writer come up with the base, and then somebody else carried it over the finish line. The same thing can happen here. It's still happening.
And the chat needs to remember, like, and I'm going to pick on you, Brandon, because you're up on the thing. Lucasfilm needs to stop announcing I'm going to cut you off right there. Lucasfilm never announced this movie. This movie that is still happening.
Bunch, right? There was a whole bunch. Right. Kathleen Kennedy stood on the stage. We saw all those logos behind her. So,
but that's what we're talking about today is this movie that wasn't announced, though. And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying that it means like, oh, it's absolved. I'm not saying that things are. I think that when it comes to a project being written, though, in the Star Wars space, and if it's going to be good, we need to acknowledge that it's going to end up happening with several writers at the end of the day. I really did want to see Lindelof I did want to see his Star Wars without there being anybody else coming in and, like, you know what I mean? I did want it to be like his star. I was really hoping for that. That's what I was the most excited for on this project.
Yeah.
But I also don't think
titled, no.
But realistically, unless we have a writer director who's coming in to do their specific film, I don't know if there's ever going to be one writer or one duo who's gonna end up making that film in the end.
Rian Johnson. No,
Rian Johnson's the one guy you all won't stop bitching about who delivered. He wrote and directed the movie and brought it in on time. Like, the one guy who does the good job you guys hate. It's crazy. We live in a crazy world, Santa. It's a crazy world. But
thank you for having the appropriate response, Jason. It was great.
My eardrums have taken an absolute battering today, thanks to Jason.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Bespin. I want you to know that
it's ASMR now. Talk to me, Jason. Talk to me, Jason.
I'm eating a banana. I sound like Sulu. All right.
Oh my goodness, you guys. So look, there's not a working title. We should, and let's hope.
There's not an announced working title. There's a working title to the thing, though.
Yeah, a celebration. Hopefully, we still get an announcement about what this movie is. A little bit of a synopsis. You said it earlier. We get a working title and a synopsis. It's a time when the universe is overrun by bed bugs. I don't know. Whatever.
A movie is going to come out if the movie doesn't come out in 2025, I think this may be the time that the Kathleen Kennedy's getting fired rumor actually would be real. Yeah. This will be the first time where I'd say that might be the time when they do say it's time to go. Like, that would be it.
Also, with the Kathy thing, like, her contract does come to an end this year. Whether she signs an extension or not, that's another thing. You know, so people will try and hedge their bets and saying that she's going to leave this year. She may well do, but you know,
I wouldn't. I'd leave if I was her. Why would you want this?
Yeah, like,
why would you want this?
Well, let me ask though. With a little bit of instability, would you want to leave the instability in somebody else's hands, or get things settled down?
Then just like Iger. Let's let this guy screw it all up so I look even better, and they ask me to come back.
Is Celebration not live streaming this year? They are live streaming, but not the panels. So they'll have their show. They'll do their show. They'll talk about what's going on.
They even made it sound like they might do a panel. Who knows what they're really doing at this point?
So they're probably not going to do the good panels, the exciting panels.
Not the good stuff.
Not the big ones.
Yeah,
probably not.
Not the Lucasfilm showcase.
You got to go. You got to go if you want the full thing, and then you got to actually get in the panel. Good luck.
She may quietly exit the next 18 months. Maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't. Let's wait and see how this all plays out. There are a lot of people.
Griffin, though, come on, quietly. Oh, I'm Kathleen Kennedy. My tail's between my legs. Like, she's already made more Star Wars than George Lucas, though, to like contextualize this person. She's not going to quietly go.
I see how you're taking that, but
I love you, Griffin, but I'm going to pick on you.
Go with the fanfare do, right? Like a firing by saying quietly. It's not a firing. That's what he means.
Yeah, when you say quietly, though, means like Kathy, we'd like you to get all your crap and get the fuck. You know what I mean? That's not what. It's not. I don't think it's going to be that. I do think. I do think most likely though she will stay because she has she's like there's a couple of movies that were on her slate, but if they end up not doing any of those, then maybe that will be when she goes. I mean, to also contextualize Kathleen Kennedy's career, she's 70 years old.
Right.
Like,
Well,
and like when's enough? You know,
it's the same for Lucas, and we talked about this some time ago, and I want to get on to the preview for the Bad Batch and for the Mandalorian. There's some things I know and things I don't know, but I want to get to that. But people keep saying they want to see George Lucas buy back the franchise from Disney, or them just give it to him. Say, you know what, we can't take it anymore. It's yours. You're
is he not 70 now too?
He's over, well over.
Is he? Yeah. Is he drinking baby's blood? Some of that baby's blood we heard about that makes you like infinitely young,
like William Shatner.
Remember, like the point I just made. Kathleen Kennedy produced more Star Wars than George Lucas has. You think if he comes back, was going to put out that one movie when he's 99? Like,
yeah, he's not going back. And I watched a video, and we were kind of chatting about it yesterday.
You can't afford it,
Jason. That there are people who are further left on the political agenda, social justice side of things, who have been calling Lucas a racist since Indiana Jones. Certainly with the prequels. And then with Red Tails, he got a lot of racist backlash. That
he didn't even direct it.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
if you're big, you're a target. If you're famed vampires, they will look at what's big and then they will try to suck its blood. Like and baby blood to live forever.
He took a lot of that criticism personally. And because he's a champion for the left. And he's pushing for causes on the left. And for the left to call him racist because of his stuff, it demoralized him. I firmly believe that. There's a lot of criticism.
I think it was when these people that are on Twitter went after his daughter online. I think that was the big moment.
Yeah, but in thinking about his marriage and thinking about his family, that's certainly a thing. But just understanding that he took criticism very personally, and the racist stuff was hard for him to take. And there's a lot of people said that he sold Star Wars Lucasfilm because Star Wars fans hated him so much. There's some truth in that, but there was lots of other people who were, I think, accusing him, George Lucas, of being a terrible person that he didn't feel was justified. And I know I read some stories back in the day about Red Tails being super racist. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? And they're like, if you can't see it, you're the problem. And he just quit. It took the rest of the life out of him. So, Bad Batch. I think we can do Bad Batch quicker than we could do Mando, because there's some things I know about Bad Batch tonight.
Okay.
From the preview. So this is spoiler heavy. You guys are hanging out with Bespin Bulletin and that MakingStarWars.net dude, Jason Ward. Spoilers are apt to flow. And I've got some that I'm going to put in today as well. And it's specific to the Bad Batch. Tonight's episode is Mount Tantus heavy. We will see Mount Tantus. We will see Crosshair. And Meg picked it out in her video today. There's an interrogation droid in that little tweet. He is being tortured. He is being tortured for information about the batch. And he briefly escapes to try to get a message out to the batch to warn them. And the message is intercepted and he's recaptured, put back in there. It's a very bad place for him. We will see lots of clones. You're going to see lots of clones that you recognize. You're going to see lots of clones, new ones. You're going to see lots of exciting things if you're a big fan of that story arc. Don't expect to see Rex, and don't expect to see Cody tonight.
But Boba Fett, right? It'll be like, you're my sister. I come to get you. Come live with me. We could rule together.
Right.
With respect.
No.
With respect.
That doesn't happen?
No. But we do. It is going to be a pivotal episode now. I don't get the Wrecker holding a big fish part of that tweet. I don't get what that represents. But what tweet is that? It was by the showrunner.
It means something's fishy in this story. I don't know.
Like what?
There's always a bigger fish.
Like they're gonna torture that guy. That's
There's
fishy.
always a bigger fish. Yeah. Also, Tarkin. You'll get so if you're trying to do your predictions for the Bad Batch tonight, and you need something to fill in the blank, you're gonna see a version of Tarkin, either hologram or in person. You will see that. So you can put that in your prediction to get your bonus point.
Tarkin's going to sing a song. It's a version of Tarkin you've never seen before. His love of Broadway musicals.
Yeah, you will not see Rex tonight. That's not to say you won't see him in 15 or 16 in the the 2-part finale. That's not to say that, but it's to say that he won't be seen tonight necessarily. Anything to add, Bespin? I know you have some info.
Yeah, all I knew about this episode of The Bad Batch was what you've covered, the stuff specifically with Crosshair. Trying to get a message to The Bad Batch was the only tidbits I knew. I'm not a big fan of The Bad Batch, so a lot of time when sources have told me about it, I've kind of like blanked out, like unintentionally. So I only watch the episodes that Jason tells me to watch, which has so far only been.
You mean the ones that Jason allows you to watch through the peek hole he has bored in the wall where he keeps you trapped in the basement.
Yeah, he also uses the Bad Batch as a form of torture for me. So
yeah,
That's what I thought.
I just let Omega say friends, and I leave. That just plays like on repeat.
Is she part of the questions they're asking Crosshair? I'm not sure. I would imagine yes, because they want to get leverage over Nala Se to help them with their cloning project, and Nala Se is not exactly being cooperative, so they need to get her to cooperate. Don't say it, Jason. I saw you smile.
It's not. Nerd Mafia said it, not me.
Just skip right over it. So
no comment.
Don't expect Omega to be captured tonight. That's not part of the story.
She does take off her hair and put it onto Crosshair, and then Crosshair wears that hair. It looks good.
What's
like a Lego character?
Yeah, like a Lego character.
What's Omega's future character purpose? Curious as to what that will be. It's a good point. I don't know.
Well, she meets a guy named Mark, and then they settle down, and then that's why Mark Omega's in the thing, because they're Star Wars premier power couple.
Mark Omega, nice. Talking about power couples, what about our friend Din and Bo? Are they a power couple in Star Wars now, or what?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Like romantically,
I'm pretty sure if she wanted it, she'd just be like, I'm taking it because this is the Mandalorian way. This is how the Mandalorians do it. And she doesn't seem too interested. She's sitting there, she's bored at home, nothing to do. She doesn't offer to go like watch Netflix with them or anything. She just goes like, why don't you get out of here? So that tells me it ain't on. She don't want you.
Not yet.
She don't want you, Mando. You got kids. On her dating profile specifically says no kids.
there's a lot of people who are wanting it, right? They're wanting some sort of romance in Star Wars
because they need it in their real lives. Go get in your real lives, losers. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Well, romance is a big part of the original trilogy in the prequel trilogy, right?
Like wanting to kiss your sister kind of stuff. Like, oh, my sister's hot. Woo! Wait, for the record, I'm totally cool with like if Luke Skywalker was gay, whatever, don't care. But those arguments always overlook the fact that he wanted to like really hook up with his sister bad for like several years. Maybe that messes with your sexuality. I don't know, but Luke Skywalker is definitely into chicks with cinnamon buns.
Well, I would think that there's an opportunity with Bo and Din to develop a relationship, and for them to
imagine them trying to kiss, clunk, to
raise Grogu together. That's an opportunity. It's a potential. It is not in place yet, and I am not opposed to the concept, but they've got some work to do to get there, right?
Yeah.
So tonight, Carl Weathers kind of already gave us the working title. Yeah.
I can't say what it was, but I have a thing that I want to put out. Okay. And like, I was like, is that Carl Weathers? And I started wondering, and he's like, you should just put it out because Carl Weathers will be like, hey man, hey, you got it right. On Twitter, because he just goes out there and says it. He's like, here's what the episode's called. I did it. It's mine. I was like on Disney Plus, they don't put the episode titles. The night you watch it, they're like, no, don't put the episode title. We might ruin it for somebody, which is so stupid. And then Carl was like, it's called The Foundling. I directed it. It's with me and Grogu. Order 66 is in it. And it's going to be really cool when you see Reva from the Kenobi series show up. You know, he doesn't. That doesn't happen. But you know.
I think he just tweets, "Oops, my bad" later on.
Yeah. Well, it's called The Foundling.
Yeah.
Presumably, my read on it is it's Grogu. The other piece of information I can just assume is Carl Weathers directed it. It'll be on Navarro. Now, both of those assumptions could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
What say ye?
I know Bespin has a take on it.
Yeah, I don't think it's the Navarro episode. I suspect it might. In the trailers, a lot of the footage that we haven't seen on screen yet is on the planet that the children of the Watch are on. And it's the Mandos flying around mountains, walking across them. Paz and Din both have hammer-looking items in the hands inside of one of the caves, being handed to them by the armorer. So I think it's something to do with that, considering they're already on that planet where we left them in episode 3. And I think you will couple that in with the Grogu flashback stuff. Again, the episode is only 30 minutes as well, so I think that's enough content right there to piece it all together.
And I think he's completely right, unless it's just more questionable, weird geography-looking stuff in the story. Because like every now and then you're like, oh, that's Tatooine. No, it's this other Tatooine where it rains. And like are they terraforming the planet? Like it has trees now and stuff. Like there's like, but I do think if it does look more like the other planet to me, like it does look like that sequence. So I'm like, how does this work? Because we have to have Mando go to that droid bar. And so I have a theory that he goes somewhere to that droid bar to try to get the IG parts. And then that's where he learns that Navarro's in trouble. Like maybe the pirates are going back to attack or something.
Really good point. Do you think we go back to Tatooine this season at all?
No.
I don't see why we would offhand.
The droid bar, right?
Yeah, the droid bar doesn't. I don't think that would be on Tatooine unless it's the canteen. It's not the canteen of that EV-99 took over.
But
Right.
wouldn't Tally have suggested that when he was there? Like, she knows he's looking for that part, so she would have been like, "Hey, go over here. They might be able to help you out."
Yeah.
I agree with both of you on that. I don't think they're going back, and that's the reason I asked.
Unless the little Babu Frickers say, "Hey, go over to Sal's shop on Planet Nebula 9. Those droids might have the part. We need you to go pick it up because we don't do that. We don't do deliveries."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I just don't want to lose the chat.
And that's way too logistical for the show. So I don't.
Jediah asked, "Do you think we'll ever see Jaster Muriel?" That's a tough question. Ever?
Yeah, my theory, my fun theory, not based off of anything, is that Christopher Lloyd is Jaster Morrell.
Really?
Yeah. He's an old clan leader, old enough that he could have been Jango Fett's father figure, and because Jango's a foundling, and he would be the right age to have been the foundling father of Jango Fett. So it's possible. I mean, that's just a fun. I think it would be fun if he was. But for all I know, his name is, Daco Fett DeLorean, some stupid stuff like that,
And Cobb Vance. I know our friend Chris Breezy is absolutely convinced we're going to see Cobb Vance, and that he is going to be on Navarro as the new sheriff to replace, or the new marshal who got replaced by the former marshal who is now on Special Forces Ops.
I hope that happens. Like I love that guy. That guy's the best. He deserves his own Star Wars show. They should have done Rangers with him.
Cobb Vanth, no Chris Breezy. Chris Breezy's the worst.
No, Chris Breezy. No, do not do a Star Wars show with that guy. Everybody will be wearing white robes and it will be dumb. Love you, Chris, but that would be dumb.
I was gonna say, I love that guy, Chris Breezy. That's who you obviously met.
Yeah, he's in the chat right there. I see him. Yeah. Everybody will be wearing white robes and be like, "Oh, does my white robe look dirty? You're a dirty boy." And that would be like the whole script. No, don't do it.
He'll have the white Jedi robes and his knockoff Pershing glasses that he's wearing on your show last week.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, poor Chris. I know it's sad, Chris. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about the abuse you're taking from these two. It's not my fault. No.
Also, Chris needs to go on Hot Mic and say, "Hey, I gave you $1. Why didn't you tell me this stuff was canceled then?"
I see another good question, but I like what you said, Bespin. I like the thought that this is called the Foundling, and I think Jason in our chat yesterday, you said the Foundling doesn't have to have a singular meaning; it can mean multiple things.
Plurality.
It could be Grogu. It could also be all of the other foundlings. The Foundling.
Like a Boy Scout episode where they're all going out to do a walkabout, and Grogu's like, "I'm too tiny. What am I gonna do? Wish I had a giant robot mech so I could get around and help."
You tend to think of one, right? The Foundling one, but it could have multiple meaning. And
why did Jason just do the poop from South Park's voice?
Mr. Hanky. Yeah, because that's what
Yeah,
Grogu
why
sounds
did
like
you
when he
do that?
talks. Oh, do not. There is no try.
Monster of the Week. We've already had some of that. I don't know. I don't feel Monster of the Week coming, but I could be wrong. But I like the idea that they're still on. That's where we left off. That's where they are. And it may give us a little bit of follow-up into the state of mind Bo-Katan is in, and where we're headed as far as bringing together the different houses, the different clans, different philosophies. And we kind of talked about this in chat, but I can't believe that the helmet rule stays in effect long term. I think by the end of this ordeal, we'll be back to
this guy knows. This guy has the visual evidence of it. Well,
yeah, Bo-Katan fights axe woes without the helmet on, so she doesn't keep it on for very long.
Yeah, she's like, "Look at this pretty face," and she beats the shit out of him. But I mean, I think they're going to have to end up going with the way where it becomes more of a choice if they do stay together, like in that unification. Because Pedro Pascal, he's doing other stuff. He's like, nah, I ain't showing up to work.
Yeah, he's shooting The Last of Us season 2 like from November for like 11 months, so he's not available for this season again.
Or they go with what Santa wants, and like for season 4. She's like, I love you. He's like, I love you. And it takes the helmet off to give her the kiss, you know? And then you can't put it back on now because they're going to make this.
When Paz eventually takes his helmet off, is it Jon Favreau?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
I think so. I think he's going to have like a scar.
That guy's such a hater, man. You know? Paz Vizsla. Anytime he sees Din show up, he's so disgruntled.
Yeah.
You know? He's a hater, you know.
He is.
Well, hater. I mean, look at it though. He hangs out with that boring armorer all day, and then like this guy just comes up and she's like, you know, giving him some love. He's like, "Nah, man, I'm putting in the time. Like, I'm the one who's taking you to the movies. I'm taking you to Sizzler. I'm taking you to Shrimp Fest." And then this guy shows up, and then we're gonna give him time? Nah.
He also has a child. Whose child is that? Louisiana Whip.
Oh, he stole that. He stole that kid.
The mom.
Yeah, he stole that child.
I think like when if we just take the visual evidence of what we saw on screen, they don't usually. I don't think they pick up like 5-year-olds usually. Like they pick up kids that are like ready to begin actual like training, and then like that one's like 12 when he gets the helmet on, right? So I think that like Grogu in a weird way may be actually young for being a foundling. He's like 5, right? We're just kind of under this assumption that Grogu's about 5 or 6, right?
Who's Paz's son's mama?
Yeah, who says this? Foundlings aren't biological.
Well, who says he's not?
Who says he is?
Yeah, we don't know if he's adopted or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that Mandalorians are like, well, thanks, baby, and they fly away, and then they don't even know.
You're not playing well, Jason.
That's what I would do if I had a rocket pack. I'd be like, hey, Luke and Penny, I ain't your dad. Bye. You know, nobody can catch me. Try to get me on child support if I have a rocket pack and a spaceship. You can't do it. You can't do it.
You think Grogu could have been mind flayed? Possibly.
Yeah. Maybe Grogu just says, they haters, I'm forgetting. You know? Prove that didn't happen. I dare you. Jedi Temple. That's even your real organization name. I know what's it called, an academy now. So what?
See, there's where you're supposed to go with that. The armorer is Paz's baby mama. You know, they were hanging out, just the two of them, for a very long time.
Yeah. He's like, hey, you think we can just take off our helmets since it's just me and you? I mean, you know, just chill a little bit.
Maybe this is why he's so aggressive and frustrated, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. Yeah.
He's like, hey, you maybe want to go, you know, down to the mines of Mandalore, maybe, you know, take a little bath. And she's like, sorry, I'm tinkering away. Donk. He's like, this situation is hopeless.
So tonight's episode of Mando, 35 minutes in a few seconds. Are we seeing the flashback tonight?
Best bet, right, Mike?
I think
I'd
so.
say.
Yeah.
If we're just going to use Occam's razor, what's the most obvious explanation? It's called the foundling. That's a foundling flashback. I mean, I think it connects. But the big question I have more is like, why does it connect? Why does the flashback even exist? Like when we look at what we think the episode is, if it's just them, they're on Navarro and some Imperials show up or whatever. Not Navarro, whatever that planet is. Why the flashback at that moment? And so like I'm curious, is Grogu having nightmares now? Luke Skywalker restored his memories. So, why are we getting a flashback when
if
he
we go
helped
back
him?
to the interview with John and Dave, they were saying that Luke gave Grogu kind of set him back on the right path. And now Grogu can continue to meditate and continue to develop and hone his skills using the tools that he has. If that's the case, Grogu could be meditating and thinking back on these things.
Yeah.
He could be.
What about Ahsoka?
Yeah, I want to pick on Mike through the fandom and Mike. Like, it's not a rumor, it's an assumption. A rumor is something that could be true based off of like, hey, we're hearing somebody at Lucasfilm said X, Y, and Z. That person, the actor, just tweeted or did an Instagram post saying next week's going to be cool, and it has the thing, and then so it's not really like a rumor as much as it is an assumption. Does that seem fair? I know that's nitpicky, but she did put the Ahsoka thing on it, which is where I don't believe that's what, I just believe she was being like a cheerleader for the franchise at that moment, but then she put the Ahsoka thing on there, which is what makes me go, well, maybe.
Yeah. Again, another assumption is the people had was just because one of the writers that was on the book of Boba Fett was writing episode 3, the Boba Fett was shot in episode 3 of The Mandalorian season 3, which he didn't. And that guy was also a staff writer on the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian anyway.
Yeah.
So
And
that's the
if
difference
Ahsoka
between the
shows
assumption
up,
and rumor.
is Sabine with her? There's an argument for this that says you set up the Ahsoka show with Sabine by putting them in an episode of The Mandalorian. There's precedent of them doing these crossovers. So would they do a Ahsoka crossover with Ahsoka and Sabine in this season of Mandalorian to set it up for the folks who will be watching Ahsoka in a few months?
Just before the show, I was talking to Santa and Meg. I don't know if you were there yet, Bespin. I think you might have been, but I was like, Jon Favreau just is the worst at structure. Like overall, when I look at like the 3 seasons, 3.5 seasons of the shows that we had now, I think he's terrible with structure. And so if he's somehow magically good at structure, that would be horrible structure, because you're going to have to reintroduce those characters again in a whole nother series. So it's not really the smartest way to go about that. I wouldn't do it. I don't know why they would, but he seems to do silly things sometimes. So it's on the table.
If you were a betting man, would you put money on Ahsoka and or Sabine being in this episode? A, that's your first bet. The season as a whole, B, or not at all? Where are you putting your money?
I would go not at all, personally.
Yeah, I would go C, unless it's like a weird post-credit scene at the end of the season or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And they may like I mean that Instagram post is like the biggest piece of evidence to make us go, yeah, Ahsoka could be in it. And like, there's stuff about Sabine that's going to happen in the Ahsoka series that makes me think it doesn't seem likely that she would be in this, by the way. But all that said, based off of what we heard during production, I don't have anything on like, oh yeah, Ahsoka's in that one.
Yeah.
Ahsoka shows up for any plot reason whatsoever. But I also don't know anything about the flashback either. So that could explain that.
So we're in agreement. Tonight is a Grogu-centric, Mando-centric episode on wherever we left them off, right? Where the alligator turtle used to live. It's going to be that place.
Where he's buried.
Where he was splattered.
Right.
But by the way, have you rewatched that episode by any chance?
I have.
When that thing blows up, the guts
guts come out.
Yeah, I didn't notice it the first time, but I watched it again. I was like, oh wow, you see guts like splattering everywhere. I was like, that's pretty gnarly.
I did see one thing that X-Wing says watching one of X-Wing's shows from last week. Somebody caught that in the last episode, the Mando portions, beginning and end. In the beginning, the N1, no Grogu hatch. In the end, the N1, Grogu hatch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A little editing oopsie there, but
it just forms over. It's magic.
It's retractable, right?
Yeah.
You push a button and it goes over, and then you push a button, it goes back. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have given it like the droid like force field thing or something.
Oh yeah, a force bubble instead of a
Yeah, a little like
a shield bubble.
yeah.
Any other predictions for tonight? So tonight, if we go that way, then we're saying Navarro and the Pirates and all of that, Greenbeard, all that happens later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that they're going to be on that planet, and Bo-Katan's house was blown up, and they run to that place. When they run to that place, they bring the Empire with them. Those TIE interceptors that were on their buns, that blew up Bo's house. They're going to track them to the covert planet. The covert planet's going to have to fight its way out. They're going to run to Navarro for refuge. The pirates are going to be there. Double trouble. And then that's what I think. That's my prediction for the episode. Just to be a contrarian to Bespin. 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. End of the episode.
I'm going to agree with Bespin. I think we're going to stay there, and it's going to focus on that. Maybe light on the action tonight. Maybe
you think light on the action? Light on the action, huh?
More story, less action. That's where I would be. That's my guess. My guess for tonight. But we know where we're headed as a season. We've got to get back to Navarro. We've got to get IG, and we've got to get him all mech'd up with Grogu. And then we got to get back to Mandalore, and have the big fight.
Yeah, but that's not until episode
Gideon
8.
as well.
Yeah, we got to bring back in Gideon, but that fight's like in episode 8 that we think anyway. We think it's. I think the
fight would be in episode 8, but I think the build up would probably be in 7. They might be on Mandalore at 7, and then it just carries. It's kind of how they did in the first season of Mandalorian. Right. You know, Gideon shows up for the conflict on episode 7, and
that gives us 3 episodes before that, right? Tonight and 2 more.
Yeah.
We got a bit to have.
And we got to get Grogu in the mech.
Yeah.
And we got to get the other clans aboard. The other 2 crusty old clan leaders got to come together.
Do you think that could be episode 7 though?
Could be tonight, for all we know.
They all just
at the end of the day,
just converge on Mandalore and wherever, and then that's when the Empire show up, and it just becomes a 2. Because obviously, FAMU was doing both episodes, right? So it is like a 2-part finale essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we could see, to your point, we could see both of the crusty Mandos tonight.
Yeah, I'm not betting on it, but yeah, we could. And that's what all happens on Mandalore. And I do think that based off of I'm trying to remember back now, because they did some reshoots for the opening on the back end, so that kind of confuses me a little bit. But yeah, there is a chance though. There is a chance that they could be on those sets.
If it's going to be Mandalorian centric, the covert and all of that, we could see the old dudes involved in some way.
Because if you remember back to when me and Bespin were covering season 3, we were like, there was like 3 kind of caves. There was the cave that we saw where he fights the monster, the Mines of Mandalore cave. There was the covert cave, and then there's the Imperial cave.
Gotcha.
Was at least what we thought was Imperial cave. It was like a cave with like Imperial like stuff on.
It's like a door, like in the middle of it, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it sounds like, I don't know, maybe that's Gideon's secret base or something. I don't know.
What was Admiral? What did Admiral Akbar yell when he was caught falling asleep?
It's a nap.
It's a nap.
Yeah, we got you, Mike Porter. We double got you.
I'm going to suspect most of the people in the chat got it as well. That's very good. Yeah, it's a nap. So I think that's good. There are some other stories out there happening in the Star Wars realm. To stay informed of those, we're not going to cover them today, but go to BespinBulletin.com. The link is in the description here. Go to Bespin Bulletin. You can read some of the other news as it relates to the Skeleton Crew and some things going on there. And also, my friend Jason has posted some information out on makingstarwars.net, and you can read some there as well. Jason, you doing a show with with Rob and or Spreezy here in a bit?
One
Pacific. That would
standard
be,
time.
Adjust for your time zone. 1 Pacific. And then Bespin, any stories in the queue?
Yeah, there's a couple in the queue.
Mm-hmm.
Jason knows about one of them. I told him yesterday about it, so that should be soon.
Can you give us a little direction, like a story about a Disney Plus series, a movie, something?
One's about Andor, one's about something else, which I haven't talked to Jason about yet because I found it out today, so I need to sort that out. So
very good. So we've got a show coming up about.
Kathleen Kennedy canceled the show.
We've got a
story from Civil War is just getting to me.
Yeah, I know nothing. All right. Well, thank you both so much for hanging out with me today.
Thank you.
And we should be back to a bit of a regular schedule. So I can do a show on Friday. You can do the watch party tomorrow. Thursday, I may see if I can get some folks together to talk about a topic. Like, we did the Mount Rushmore of Jedi. We may do a Mount Rushmore of. We're getting ready to do a Mount Rushmore of droids with Astromech Jeremy.
Me and Jason have a Mount Rushmore. We were going through it last night. I don't know if that's a show you want to.
Yeah, it goes like Bix, Leia, Sabine, one more.
Winstead. Yeah.
Winstead. Yeah. Winstead. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
I can't believe you left Mon Mothma off of there. Come on now.
Hey,
you guys got to reassess.
Hey, it was a top 5, buddy. Top 5.
It's a top 5. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out, and you guys, please, the subscribers count here on the channel has been going down. We need more subscribers. We need you guys to share it out, let people know what we're doing here. I thought it was a great show today. Appreciate it. And
sorry for my screaming.
You got to apologize to Bespin for that. You're blowing his ears out with that.
Sorry, Bespin. I won't do it again.
Very good. Yeah, we need to do just an after show of you just doing ASMR. I think.
All right.
Go and whip a lightsaber out and rub it next to the microphone, please. There you go.
All right. Thank you, guys, and we'll put you in the backstage here as it close out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And it's so fun to get to talk to the Star Wars with all of you. I hope you have a wonderful day. And until next time, my friends, Merry Christmas. And may the Force be with you always. Bye-bye.